Stop living on autopilot. Here's 3 ways to take back control. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that affects every single one of us. It's those negative cycles that keep us stuck on autopilot. You know those moments where you catch yourself reacting the same way, falling into the same patterns, living the same day over and over again? That's what we're breaking free from today. Think about how many times you've driven home from work and you've barely remembered the journey, or you've eaten a meal without really tasting it, or you're nodding along a conversation while your mind is somewhere else entirely. That's autopilot, and it's stealing your life right from under you. Think about this. You are not your mind. This is just some abstract concept. It's a powerful truth that can transform your life. Your mind is like a roommate that never stops talking, constantly chattering, judging, and running on old programs. But here's the key. You are the observer of those thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. So you have to think of yourself as an entity that's separate from your thoughts. Let's talk about what's really going on in your head. How many of your daily thoughts are essentially junk mail in your brain? Research suggests that we have around 60,000 thoughts per day, but only 80% of them are negative. Even more shocking, around 96% are exactly the same thoughts we had yesterday. And that's the definition of living on autopilot. Think about that for a moment. You're recycling the same thoughts day after day, wondering why nothing changes. It's like watching the same movie on repeat and expecting a different ending. So here's 3 steps that you can take for breaking autopilot that you can implement today. 1. Sensory awareness. I want you to close your eyes right now. And let's do a quick exercise together. Wherever you're watching this, take a moment to feel the temperature around you. Is there a slight breeze on your skin? Maybe you feel the warmth of the sunlight through a window, or maybe you're feeling cold. Now expand your hearing. What's the most distant sound that you can pick up? Bring your awareness, feel the weight of your body. Notice how it connects with the surface on what you're sitting on. Now look around your space and try to spot 3 colors you hadn't noticed before. And you can open your eyes now. So you see what we did there? We broke the autopilot cycle. Your mind was probably somewhere else, thinking about work, worrying about tomorrow. But for those few moments, you were fully present. The second step is pattern disruption. Now let's talk about shaking up those daily routines. Tomorrow morning, try taking a different route to work, if it's feasible. I know this sounds trivial, but here's what happens. Your brain suddenly has to engage. It can't run on its usual autopilot program. You'll notice new buildings, different trees, and maybe a cafe that you never knew existed. Here's another powerful one. Try using your non-dominant hand for simple tasks like brushing your teeth or opening doors. I know this feels awkward, but that's exactly the point. You're creating new neural pathways and you're forcing your brain out of its comfort zone. Even something as simple as changing your music can have a profound effect. Your brain is going to process the day differently, I promise you. These aren't just random changes, they're pattern interrupts that wake up your consciousness. 3. Present moment awareness. When a thought or emotion arises, most of us immediately jump in to fix it. We judge it or we push it away. But here's a different approach. Imagine you're sitting on a riverbank, watching leaves float by. Each leaf is a thought or emotion. Instead of jumping in to grab them, just observe. Now, let's say anxiety shows up. Rather than immediately trying to calm down or criticizing yourself or feeling anxious, get curious instead. Where do you feel it within the body? Is it a tightness in your chest? Is it a knot in your stomach? Does it have a color or temperature? This isn't about changing anything. It's about developing awareness. So the magic happens when you can watch these thoughts and emotions without getting tangled in them. You are not your anxiety. You are not your brain. You're the awareness that's watching the anxiety. This distinction changes everything. Now, we're going to dive into something powerful, understanding what's really driving these patterns. This is where real transformation begins. Let's walk through a real example of the why chain technique. Imagine you're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation at work. Most people will just stop at, I'm nervous about the public speaking. Or you can use any real life example that you're going through, but the concept's the same. So taking the public speaking one as an example, why exactly are you nervous? Oh, it's because people are going to judge me. Well, why does their judgment matter so much? Because I need their approval. Why do you need their approval? Because without it, I feel worthless. Why do you tie your worth to others' opinions? Because growing up, I learned that love and acceptance were conditional on performance. Now, you see what just happened? We went from a surface level work anxiety to uncovering a core belief about self-worth. This isn't about dwelling on the past, it's about understanding the programming that's running in your subconscious mind. Now let's look at another example. You notice that you're always people-pleasing. Why? Because you're afraid of conflict. Why? Because conflict means rejection. Why? Why does rejection feel so threatening? Because of early experiences of abandonment. Why does this still control you? Because you've never addressed the original wound. When you're doing this exercise, your ego is going to try and distract you. It might say, this is stupid, or I don't have time for this. And this is very, very common. Or I understand the concept from an intellectual perspective, but I'm not going to put it into practice. This in itself is resistance. And this resistance is a sign that you're actually getting close to something important. So by default, your brain is going to trick you. Here's where things get tricky. When you start uncovering these patterns, it's tempting to fall into what I call the victimhood trap. You might find yourself saying things like, well, of course I'm like this. Look at what happened to me. Or you might notice that you're telling the same story about your past over and over and over again. The key difference is that, are you using these insights as a stepping stone to growth? Or are you using it as a justification to stay stuck? Are you using your past experiences to understand yourself or to avoid taking responsibility for your present choices? Remember, the goal isn't to build a better victim story. The goal is to recognize these patterns so that you can finally break free from them. Your past experiences shaped you, but they don't have to define your future. So watch out for these warning signs. Constantly retelling your story, using the past experiences to justify current behaviors, resistance to taking responsibility, finding comfort in the familiar pain. This is where becoming depolarized, as we discussed in my last video, becomes absolutely crucial. You need to be able to hold the two truths simultaneously. Yes, these things happen to you, and you have the power to change your response to them right now. Your subconscious mind is like a garden that's been growing the same weeds for years. When you start pulling them out, there's going to be resistance, and that's normal. In fact, if you're not feeling any resistance, you might not be digging deep enough. So you have to start small. Choose one awareness practice and do it daily. And this is absolutely crucial. Don't overlook this. It might be the sensory exercise that we did earlier. Maybe it's taking 2 minutes to observe your thoughts without judgment. Maybe it's all of the exercises we discussed. But you have to be able to track your progress in a journal and write this down physically on a piece of paper. Do not skip this step. This is absolutely crucial. You need to be able to celebrate the small wins. So for example, did you catch yourself before falling into a negative thought spiral? That's progress. Did you notice a pattern that you never saw before? That's huge. These small moments of awareness will compound over time. And as with anything in life, there's no such thing as being a success overnight, whether that's an external success or an internal success. It's the small things done consistently over a period of time that compound, and that's where you become successful. So remember, your subconscious mind is going to try and fight back. You might feel more tired than usual. You might find yourself craving old patterns, but this is part of the process. It's like upgrading your operating system. There might be some glitches during the installation, but the new version is worth it. Remember, these concepts might seem simple, but they're powerful when applied consistently. You have to be able to, one, depolarize yourself, and actually, number two, then become aware. So let me know in the comments what patterns you've noticed in your own life and what steps you've taken to break free from autopilot. So if you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content on personal development and breaking free from limiting patterns. Until next time, stay present, stay aware, and more importantly, stay true to yourself.